Who of you is using some sort of large language model like GPT-4 on a day-to-day basis? Can I see a hands up? That's pretty much everyone. Okay. Um, who of you is actually happy with the workflow that you have with that thing? That's no one. And that was also the point where I was coming from. I was kind of interested in ways how you could have a better workflow, how you could probably integrate a large language model like GPT-4 into your operating system to have, so to say, easier access in between apps, and yeah, maybe can also just communicate with your operating system. And I wanted to know these things. So the work that I did was more about software architecture than actually data sciencey stuff. So I wasn't training models. I was just looking into design questions and tried a few implementations. I needed to make a design decision right at the beginning. Should I go cross-platform or should I stay with Mac? I'm working on Mac, and there's a good cross-platform design, GUI design library that you can use that's built on C++. And looking at the applications that are built with these platforms, I really didn't like how they looked. So I decided to stay with Mac and work in the Swift environment. So, and I was thinking about how can I integrate machine learning concepts into my operating system? What would make sense? What would solve problems? What looks sleek? What runs smooth? What is flexible in terms of integration? Flexible means how easy can I change between models, between functions? All in all, what's a good product? Very naively. And so to say, as a playground, I was looking for a problem to solve. Coming up with the next question for you is, who is familiar with web scraping? Okay. So it's basically a cultural practice where you try to retrieve data from the internet. Because you want to make sense of that data. You use it for some application whatsoever. These days, a lot of people need data. So there's this practice actually of scraping it off the internet. And there's basically two approaches that you can use. One would be you just pass the entire HTML of a website. You just take the whole thing and you read through it. It's pretty fast. It's pretty easy. It has its limitations since a lot of websites are actually JavaScript rendered. That means you can't just get the whole content of the website in one go. You have to interact with the website in order for information to be visible to you. And that you would use some sort of a headless browser to do that. So some sort of a machine that makes data available, right? And here comes the problem, is that that's actually getting increasingly hard, because especially machine learning compared with antibots and with Cloudflare and all technology against scraping is getting better and better. And so I was thinking about a few edge cases, like you wanted to have information scraped off Reddit, which has no API anymore. And or you wanted to have information of a Blinkist account or of LinkedIn. So where all of your actions with the website are also traceable to you as a person because you have a paid account or a private account. Yeah, and I was looking for ways how to do that. How could I solve this? How could I kind of get that information in a clever way? And I was thinking of a screen streaming application. So a thing that would be implemented in my system and would use some sort of image recognition just from the screen of my system, make sense of that image and have some sort of automation with the website going on, but not actually really interacting as a browser with the website. Just automating the whole thing based on image data and taking data out of the image, feeding it into some mouse movement optimization, and so on and so forth. It sounds a little bit abstract. I'll show you in a minute how it works. I called it Colibri. It has minimal browser interaction as I wanted it. It's an elegant integration and it nests in the menu bar. That's how it looks like. That's how it actually looks like, and that's the architecture underneath it. Don't be so busy with the architecture. I'll show you how it works. There's a video. Everything you see is automated. Oh yeah. So it's taking screenshots, and if you ask it to fly, it's doing OCR on the screenshots, scrolling a bit, taking another screenshot, scrolling again, taking another screenshot. So it's basically going over everything that is text on the screen with positional data. And at some point it finds a next button and it goes to the next screen. And it does that over and over again. So that's how you could get information theoretically of any website that you wanted without any bot ever detecting you. It would just have to make sure that the mouse movements and the interaction that you simulate are well simulated. If your mouse is jumping and things happening, things look script-like, then there's also tools that would detect that. Okay. So I did that. And I was thinking about it. So I want to show you. You get that data. So what you get from that is a CSV structured, a comma separated structured data with text chunks. And every text chunk has a position, okay? So you put that into some LLM. I use GPT-4 for ease of use. And you get something like this. Scraping data from a website that sells clothes. You want to know the brands, you want to know the titles of the products, you want to know the prices, etc. And you can see it's not doing a very well job out of the box, but you can tune it. You can train it on brand names before you run it, and so on and so forth. I had a moment sitting down, looking at my Colibri, and thinking, yeah, it's minimal. Yeah, it's doing its thing in a more or less precise way. And I was looking from another angle and I was thinking, yeah, I'm somehow not happy. I think, what's wrong here? Would I personally want to use that? No. No, the whole approach seemed really hackish and really unelegant. I mean, you could get data from anywhere in the world now, given that you have a computer that's idle because you need an actual screen. You can't simulate the screen because that would be headless browsing again. So it's kind of bulky, you know? And I was thinking, God, what have I put myself into here? This is a portfolio project, and how do I get out of it? And so let's go back to the architecture of the thing. Here's the architecture. So it's not that important as it is. So basically, it contains of 2 blocks. Okay. On one side, you have a GUI, you have an API. It looks good. It uses the Swift libraries, Apple native, to prevent crashes. So it's a pretty stable, pretty sturdy thing, and I'm happy with it. That was cool. So I have an API, and I can basically, in the iteration of the project that I just showed you, we were using basically OCR. I used Tesseract, which is actually fairly old, which was interesting to me that one of the more senior computer vision models compared with OpenCV actually were the easiest to use and gave the best results. For the LLM, I used GPT-4, and then I used the PyAuto GUI to just automate everything. And I was thinking, okay, I could get rid of this entire machine learning part and replace it with something else. So I was looking around, and I found some good ideas. So instead of relying on OCR, on making sense, I was thinking about, hey, couldn't you create vector embeddings of your entire file system or of parts of your file system and create sort of a RAG, fine-tune an LLM on that and have it interact with that on a system base? Wouldn't that be like much more interesting, maybe much more fast and much more elegant? So I came up with this other idea. It's Colibri, and it's another Colibri. I actually want to be consistent with the name as much as possible. So it's, I would say, 70% finished. It's trained on a code base. It has always relevant and up-to-date documentation for whatever code you write. So it's basically trained on the code you write to have that documentation for you ready, which is a problem that most coding helpers so far don't have. GPT-4 doesn't know contemporary coding libraries very well. It's trained on old data. It reads also the standard error and corrects your runtime errors. And it writes your documentation. And it's almost ready, and I'm really looking forward. And I found some other agents for that were kind of doing similar things. So there's this thing Quiver, which is also trained on your file system. And you have a chatbot, and you can kind of intelligently chat with your whole files. So you have a finder on steroids, so to say. If you wanted to know anything about your PDFs or the docs that you wrote, you could ask Quiver. Quiver is free. It's on GitHub. You should check it out. And there's actually apps, Unlost and Rewind. They pretty much do the same thing, working with the same mechanics as well. And they create sort of time-stamped, same idea, but you have a memory that's intelligent, and you can talk to your memory, and your memory can retrieve back things to you based on your calendar, based on your Slack, based on your emails, and it reminds you things. And you can think of like, hey, what was that meeting with that person? What came up? What was relevant? You ask it that thing, and it brings that up for you. That's another very interesting application I find, just for you to look into if you're interested. Okay, so I left with a lot of questions. I'm pretty much interested in how the future of coding looks and how the future of operating systems look like. And if there will be ways that communication between applications and LLMs will be made more accessible in the future. Yeah, I just Chris sent me an article today that actually Apple is building that more or less for their operating system. We know also Microsoft is training their chatbot for the operating system. So I think it's pretty exciting how agents will look like and whether we will actually use them. Thinking of Siri, I don't know who uses Siri. I actually don't. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. So that was it. If you want to be kept in the loop about the coding, the Colibri coding thing, you can send me an email. Other than that, what's happening so far is on this GitHub. Thank you.